Anambra show this morning. My name is Nonye Nwokoye, and it's a privilege to have in the studio this morning Chris Arukwe. Did I get the name?
Yeah, you got
okay.
it.
Chris Arukwe is a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to the studio, Chris.
Good morning. Welcome.
All right, we also have Chukwunonso Ekesiobi. Chukwunonso is a lecturer, economics department, Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University, Ibariam. Good to have you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we remember that the majority of Nigerians actually were waiting to heave a sigh of relief at the end of the administration of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, as regards borrowing, only for us to, for the borrowing to continue. And I don't know, generally, how do you see the borrowing of the present administration? Chukwemeka, let me begin with you.
You're the second person that's calling me Chukwemeka this
Sorry, Chukwunonso.
Well, I think that's the only bright side of what we're here today. That I could assume the name of my institution, Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University. But on the borrowing habit of our leaders, especially in the past two administrations, I think it will be playing a broken record to say that our borrowing habit is becoming worrisome. We started ringing the alarm bells from Buhari's administration, especially with our insatiable appetite for always, using debt as the escape route to most of our fiscal challenges. And Nigeria is a growing economy in the sense that not just in terms of resources, but in terms of our population. As the population is increasing, so also is the obligation of government to meet up with education, health, infrastructure, development issues, and so on and so forth. So it's quite challenging that instead of exploring other means or devising alternatives to funding these our obligations, we have made it. We have normalized the habit of always seeking borrowing, and it's quite worrisome because this it's again because of this kind of habit that Nigerians, most Nigerians now have this impression that whenever you talk of public debt, that is a bad thing. Really, public borrowing is not a bad thing. Even as an individual, when you run into one personal challenge or the other, you borrow, even if not from banks, from families, friends, and the rest. So borrowing is not really bad. It's just that we borrow here recklessly for
I've had that severally. Okay.
You see, the thing is, like you mentioned now, the way Nigeria is borrowing, we will soon hit a fiscal cliff in the sense that we will run out of what to borrow money from, borrow money for, or borrow money with, because you still need some. As an individual, if you want to borrow money from banks, for instance, you need some level of collateral, some good standing, something that will place you on the good side of your creditor. But here we have gotten to the stage, or we are almost getting to the stage where we run out of borrowing options. And what is now more worrisome is when you look at our debt history, our recent debt history, with the development outcomes. It doesn't tally. And that's what is more worrisome, because if you have been borrowing this money and it begins to rub off, like you mentioned, on the lives of the masses, nobody will be complaining. But I think the more we borrow, the more our misery increases.
Oh, all right. Now, like Chris, as I said earlier, that I've had people say that borrowing, that majority of the nations of the world borrow. That was why in my introduction, I was kind of saying, what do we need to borrow for? When you borrow money, what do you do with the money? So what are we supposed to be doing with the borrowed money?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, we know that we are looking for 4.5 billion to take up now.
Naira or dollar?
Dollars.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the next tranche that we're going to
I think it's important to mention the...
Yes, dollars. We are going to take the tranche soon, before the year runs out. So all the nations of the world, one way or the other, because borrowing is actually tied to international trade. These monies or borrowings are attached to goods and services. They are really not physically cash, like you dump 4.5 billion to the treasury of Nigeria. It's all like exchange of services, talent, and all that. So it's a trade tool. Borrowing is a international trade tool. It's a machine, or through the tunnel you can get exchange, get services, things you cannot provide for yourself by yourself, or produce in your country in an advantageous manner, so that it can comparatively rank competitively in the global world. So what we're saying is that when you borrow, or when you now say you want to borrow, you don't borrow to fuel the consumption of luxuries. It's in the hierarchy of needs. What are your priorities? You have infrastructure deficit. You have health infrastructure challenges, educational, institutional challenges. Our universities are grappling with deficits in all ranks and brooks of it. So when you're borrowing, you should be attached to specific sectors that will compel an impact on further generative activities. That is, you borrow to like pump a tire, it gets inflated. You now begin to get benefit. You can run faster when your tire is good and all that. But in Nigeria, the setback is that we borrow just to close the gap of the consuming elites. You borrow to buy luxury vehicles, 2023 models, for 496 lawmakers, while the majority of Nigerians are below poverty indices, global poverty capital of the world. The health institutions are collapsing. Half of Nigerians are seeking for passports to get out of the country, get out of hell. It was a president who said a shit country. You see that the events have proven the guy very correct, because everybody wants to leave. I want to leave if I can. Everybody actually wants to leave because there's a better life out there. Why? Because we've messed up with everything we have. We've borrowed just to chop it, using a Nigerian slang. We borrow just to trade off, to buy things, to bribe people. We have not borrowed to tie this thing to an international product that will generate activity. We've not borrowed to cure the incurable road interchanges we have in the country. We've not borrowed to start manufacturing. The manufacturing sector is gone. The expatriates industries are leaving the shores because they are not guaranteed with electricity. There's urban insecurity of a wide scale that anybody who is capable of being kidnapped can be kidnapped. Yesterday in the news, the Kogi governor was shot severally in his convoy. You can see in the city capital of Abuja that the hoodlums will have such courage, Dutch courage.
Oh, all right. I think it's a very big topic again for another day. But now, Nonso, sorry. It's agreed that borrowing is a global thing. Now, could you analytically paint the picture of what it should be? Have we really paid back the ones we borrowed, or you don't pay back the loans, you just keep borrowing? Have we been able to pay back the ones we borrowed, previously before, this one we're about to borrow? So just paint the picture generally how it should be, or what it should be.
The situation of the Nigerian debt situation is quite gloomy as it is now, because I think under the last administration, when we were talking about we are almost hitting the mark when it comes to
it got to a point where they said that they had to share it to individuals in Nigeria.
Debt servicing and the rest of them. The then finance minister was like, don't worry, our debt to GDP ratio is still okay, blah, blah, blah. And it's wrong. Nigeria's debt profile before this issue we are discussing now is, I think, about 87 trillion. And when you have that kind of debt profile, from 2015, okay, the external debt component of which we are owing just to the World Bank. You know, this one we are talking about is just the World Bank. The World Bank, our debt stock with the World Bank was about $6 billion in 2015, and it has increased to about 18 billion by the time Buhari left. So you can see that while our debt has been increasing, we've been having a challenge of servicing the debt. This is not just, you were talking about repaying the debt, but I'm just talking of servicing the interest on the debt. We spend our revenue, 97% of our revenue to service debt. So it means that if whatever money we make and we use it to service existing debt, so that means that we are left with nothing to
run the system.
To run the system. So what we now do is to take another loan to now run the system, because what we made, we used it to service previous loans. And you see, if we continue, on this path, we're only heading to hell, like he mentioned, because again, the issue of even the way these debts are being structured. At the time we were going through all these Eurobonds and the rest of that, Nigeria was just looking for money left, right, center. I was surprised that the World Bank has been gracious enough to make this loan facility possible. But people are missing the history of this thing, because as the president, the outgoing president Buhari wanted to leave, he made some arrangements with the World Bank in anticipation of the subsidy removal. So we got $800 million as a part of the palliative, something we're going to use to cushion the effect of that subsidy was removed, and now we got another 400 million. That's 1.2 billion already for subsidy palliative. Now this 1.5 billion that we are taking, is to finance budgeting, and I think there was a tag we gave it, something about financing human capital opportunities and empowerment. Fine. When you get these monies, if you look at our expenditure pattern, our expenditure habits, you will see that this country is not serious. Honestly, we can have money to sponsor pilgrimages. We can have money to finance frivolous activities, but we can never have money to do something that will benefit the economy in the long run. Even when, like he said, even when you say you want to tie our loans, because most times we don't tie these loans to serious expenditure
projects.
Even when it is tied, you see that those projects are unnecessarily overloaded. Remember when we were taking loans under the past administration, I think, let me use railway, for example. You will see what it costs the Nigerian government to construct maybe 15 kilometers of railway. Yeah? We construct 100 kilometers elsewhere.
Definitely.
So you see that even when we want to procure infrastructure, we don't even think it through, because they just collect the money and say, okay, we are building a railway to where, from Daura to Niger. What is the economic or human benefit for that kind of project? It should generate returns, not just economic returns, but social returns. What do we benefit from there? Okay, the celebrated one from Abuja to Kaduna. You see, insecurity has messed up that thing, because it's no longer people. The route now is always affected. Movement is not always going on there steady. Look at the other one that was discovered somewhere in Lagos, where people are sabotaging the e-ticketing system, and the money is going somewhere else. So you see that even when we take these loans, we are not even having it at the back of our mind that we are going to pay these things back. And you know why the World Bank loan is very enticing? Because they call it concessional loans. Because this time around you are getting it at little or no interest. The payment is deferred in such a way that you can have enough space, enough time, enough room to use that money productively before you begin to repay. But our worry is that we have this history of mismanagement of funds, and that is why people are already raising alarm. Like he said now, I think it was King Simoa that raised his own ASIN, and he has gotten the backlash that he was expecting. You are spending money to renovate something. Even the problem I have with most of these things is that when we discuss debt, we are only looking at the federal government. Some states now are in a mess. If we come down to the state level, some states now in a mess.
Actually, we're here to focus on the federal government. Yes.
Because the debt issue it will cascade down to everybody. And now, there's what we call fiscal space. Fiscal space is that's room you have between your debt and your revenue. So when you take, it's just like you want to take loans from the bank as a civil servant. The bank will ask you what is your salary. You tell them. They know that in order to...
I was even coming to that, Chris. There is what you call checks and balances. Yes. And we have SERAP there. So SERAP is now coming out.
I beg your pardon. It's not even the job of SERAP.
No, I'm talking about the accountability or putting checks, in what we do. No, there are so many people that are supposed to, but I'm just trying to say what SERAP is saying in papers today. They are suing the lawmakers not to procure the vehicles, So when we are talking of that loan is what everybody does, there are checks and balances, yes. Just like what you said now. Does it mean that it's not in Nigeria?
It's not done. Okay,
Chris, can you?
Yeah, why not? We have non-governmental agencies playing up, like you mentioned, SERAP. But the oversight, main function of the oversight is the legislature. And if you recall very vividly, during the time of Shehu Sani, because the law then is, if a state government wants a loan, a foreign loan, the senator representing the state, the 3 senators must concur, give their own internal approval to the loan as an internal oversight, because these senators are supposed to know if the loans are actually geared towards specific projects. And El-Rufai took the request to the Senate for approval so that he would source for the loan. Sani refused because he knew that this money was just for political jamboree, that the money was never going to be used for anything tangible in the lives of our people. So generally, there's supposed to be a strong oversight from the conception of the loan to the implementation by the various houses of assembly, various houses of the House of Reps, to the Senate, and down the line. Then non-governmental agencies, public critical bodies like SERAP, should also, because it's a global democratic setup, anybody who feels injured, who feels that his group will be injured if we take this loan, or if we take this loan and don't apply it to the specific project, us as a citizen should have a right to object, to go to court, to ask for answers to the questions of the posers. But you now see that it's a free run. We have a Senate that is weak. You have a leadership of the Houses of Assembly, House of Reps that are weak. that these are people who run to the state houses to get permissions to do their own functions guaranteed by the Constitution. So we don't have that arm that should oversight this loan takings.
Even the people giving the loans, are there not things they put in place? Okay, you said something earlier that is World Bank on is little or no interest.
It is now with the global economic uncertainty that is ongoing, rising interest rates globally and inflation. Most countries, most creditor countries are no longer as eager as they used to be, in terms of giving out. So the only option we have now is from the World Bank and the IMF and co. So it's good, and the World Bank is excited with the Tinubu administration that it is willing to give this kind of money, unexpectedly so. Why? Because most of the World Bank and IMF recommendations as to managing our fiscal activities, they have seen the current administration as doing that part. For instance, they have been talking about removing subsidies, fuel subsidies. The World Bank has also been crying about our exchange rate situation. And so they have been impressed with what the present administration has done. So they feel that, yes, that we are, in their own calculation, that we are on the right path. So it's now left to be seen what they will do with this money when it gets to them. Because they believe that, yes, that this administration can be serious after all. But I have my reservations when it comes to this international development guys, because there's this thing we discuss in economic literature when we say that they always prescribe the same medicine for every country. It's just like a doctor, whenever any patients come, they always tell you, drink paracetamol, drink paracetamol. No, the global economic landscape, it cannot succumb to that one size fits all, that one approach for everybody. No. The solution to our own fiscal challenges
could be peculiar.
Could be peculiar to that, from that and others are doing.
All right, the program is Good Morning, Anambra. We are looking at, as Nigeria seeks a fresh $1.5 billion loan facility from World Bank. Actually, we are going to take a short break. When we return, we begin to look at the effect these loans will have on the Nigerian nation and her citizens. And of course, if there are ways we could support as Nigerians, to ensure that our nation works well again. We'll take a short break. Let's feel the pulse of the masses. We'll be right back.
Life is a collection of moments.
This was so much fun for me.
Moments so precious, they give us memories that last forever.
How can we forget?
First graduating student of the year 2019.
We did it! And of course, your big day.
We believe in celebrating all of life's special moments.
I do.
Because we are your spark in every milestone. San Lauren.
Anambra Broadcasting Service, ABS. With delight, we bring you the light that we bear through our illustrious leaders. Our icons. Our industrious people. Our rich culture, our places of pride, and our mouth-watering cuisine. With unbridled professionalism and renewed tenacity, we serve you real-time news, information, entertainment of varied genres with unfettered reach of your clients and customers. AB.
Wow.
Life is a collection of moments.
This was so much fun for me. Okay.
Moments so precious, they give us memories that last forever.
How can we forget?
First graduating student of the year 2019.
We did it. And of course, your big day.
We believe in celebrating all of life's special moments
I do.
because we are your spark in every milestone. Saint Laurent.
All right, you're welcome back to the studio as Nigeria seeks fresh $1.5 billion loan facility from the World Bank. We're here to really look at, the borrowing, whether it's too much, whether the people of Nigeria are really feeling the impact of the loans borrowed. And of course, what we stand to lose when we continue without looking inward to see measures to put up to help for the nation to thrive the way it should. I still have in the studio Chris, Anokwe, and Alokwe. Okay, Arokwe, sorry, and Chukunonso Ekesi will be in the studio really doing justice to the topic. Now, Nonso, I don't know. We've said a lot concerning this issue. Now, I would want us to look at what impact or effects loans could have on a nation, especially when we borrow without properly, putting it where it's supposed to be put to yield required dividend for the nation. So what are the effects it could have on us as a nation?
As an individual, when you take loans and you default on the loan, you know what's coming next. So the same thing with when a country takes these loans and does not put it to use properly. You see, the issue is the end product. What do you use it for? And it's not that loan like that, like we keep on saying. So obviously, when we take these loans and eventually, when it's time, to give accounts, to make necessary.
Do we still have accountability in this nation?
Yeah. Because that's why I said I think the World Bank is giving us, especially this administration, the benefit of the doubt that that you guys are looking like you want to do what we have been saying since. So the thing is this: when you take these loans and you don't use them productively, the end product is that you just get your country in a mess. The macroeconomic situation will just be in a mess because one, your inability to pay back will rub off on other macroeconomic fundamentals. Yeah, when we know that you are owing and you don't have money to even to service, let alone to repay, what it does is that it strikes pessimism in the economy. You begin to watch what happens in your financial market. For instance, investors, especially foreign investors, will be pulling their resources out of the country because they know that the country is heading nowhere. Then again, you look at what that's the signal that one will send outside because other countries will be avoiding you like a plague. When you now need further support, you won't find them anywhere. What's it called again? Even the domestic investors' confidence in domestic economy will be very weak. Look at this exchange rate problem we're having now, for instance. At some point when we thought that when we unified the exchange rate with the parallel market and the official rate, it will get somewhere. That one obviously has failed. And look at what is happening now. Most Nigerians, especially the high end, the wealthy guys, are converting their naira assets to foreign currencies, so they don't lose out. What signal is that passing? Now they got the same. Look at the mess that has happened with the central bank and the way it is being managed. You know, now I believe that now we have a substantive civilian government, Cardoso and his team, that will get something serious. So you see that when you don't manage your loans well, it will come back to wreak havoc on the economy. And not just the thing is, when we discuss this debt, we are discussing it as if it is just a present challenge, forgetting that there's what we call the intergenerational effect of this debt, because by taking loans now, you are preventing, the future generation that from taking loans when maybe it gets to their turn, if the need arises, because we have exhausted all opportunities for taking loans. So rather, you are transferring the burden on generations to come. So what are we not saying? When that has happened, what happens to the domestic economy? We are already challenged with food security crisis, the general insecurity crisis, low manufacturing utilization and output. We are okay. Look, we just the CBN of recent reversed is blacklisting of 41 items from assessing foreign exchange. All these things, you see, all these things are like last minute efforts, desperate efforts to see if we can steady the Nigerian ship. So the bottom line is this: when you don't take your loans seriously and you don't use them productively, you are heading for a crisis, a debt crisis. If you look at what happened with Venezuela, if you look at what happened with Greece, the Greece debt situation was such that they had to be saved twice. But still, and we are talking about a country that is well managed than what we have here. So the evidence is everywhere. So if we don't want to be like that, like he said, that if we don't want to be on the road to Zimbabwe, there should be something we need to do. And part of those things we need to do are, for instance, raising awareness about this. You talked of Sarah. Even what we are doing here, no matter how little it may appear, but it's raising the consciousness that look, that we are joining the conversation. That look, whatever you guys are using, you are taking this money for. Make sure you use it well, so that it will be on record that on so day this issue was raised on ABS. And they said, and we said something like this is going to happen. So let's not be that if we are always, let's not look as if we are always foretelling or predicting doom or something. So we can take proactive measures.
Is it not what you are saying? What we are seeing, now I don't know, Chris. I was thinking if there's any possibility, what could be done, or the suggestions we could make to the administration now, possibly on what to do so that the debts will not keep rising, or we will not keep borrowing. We know that we borrow to make ends meet or to do some things, but are there ways? For instance, I know that over the time, some experts or some politicians during their campaign keep saying cut cost of governance, cut cost of governance. Are there things that could be done to help, so that this borrowing will not be too much?
Yes, there are a lot we can do. And you mentioned that actually the central thing there is, first of all, cutting the cost of governance. If you see that the luxury items that you consume, foreign-made goods you consume, the length of your car stream, you use 40, 41, 45 in your drive. You want to be sounded like a king in a black Africa. So there are a lot of things we can do. Luxuries, wastages and governance, tours and conferences, almanacs. One time in Nigeria, we were already adults, Obasanjo in his first coming banned the use of luxury cars and reduced every public officer to a 504. It was the standard, the minimum standard. The maximum standard you can have was a Peugeot 504. And that that this Peugeot was assembling
In Nigeria?
In Kaduna.
At the time.
In terms of that effort, employment is generated, revenues are upped, and things are running better. Revenues are not wasted on patronages outside the country. So things like that could work. In a situation where we devote our time to buying bread, buying apples from UK, every morning bread, loaves, and all that are shipped back to us. Basic human domestic things are not made in Nigeria. If we don't turn our energies to manufacturing, we cannot even service these debts. And what is the direct effect of these loans? It cheapens your goods in the international market. It makes your good worthless. It makes your currency to be near to nothing. The Zimbabwean dollar. You know, that kind of thing. So because these loans lead to deflationary trend, effort must be made to make sure that our consumption angle, that is the element of what we eat, what we enjoy, are curtailed in such a manner to sustain a long period of injection. Because if you put in revenue up, it's rising, you will not need to borrow more. You will have greater capacity to service the one you have borrowed. And you know, these loans are not really like physical cash. Like I mentioned, it's not just cash. It's about exchange of goods and services. You know, you can see the China rail track business. It wasn't cash. These people utilized all their resources from China, brought the steel and iron bars all from China. All what they didn't bring was water. They brought in their own special cements. So you discover that these people are enjoying the loans they give to us because it fuels activity in their home countries. It is us who actually suffer. Why they generously give us this is that the products and services are coming from homeland in such a way that the economy is being activated. The economy is being regenerated. They get a gift from it. And here, because there's no oversight, the Chinese people will just do half job for a full payment. In the eastern region, I learned that they're cutting off all the rail tracks and using, smelting it into things they need to develop the approved rail tracks in the north and in the west. Because you know that none of these things came to the east. It's politics of the geopolitics of Nigeria, ethnicity and all those kind of nonsense, and it is generating lopsidedness. Because if you take a rail station or a rail track to where there are no economic activities, it doesn't impact heavily. In the east, we need these rail tracks to run from Enugu to Abia, Aruchukwu, and all those places. In the past, it used to be so easy to move from Enugu to Abia State. When we were growing up, you just come out to the Gui Road station. The next 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, you're in Abia State. You know, so the global thing we need to do is fiscal discipline. Corruption is so high that one person takes home in his bank account billions of naira. In a lifetime, he will not finish spending. His generation will not finish spending on this. It's aggrandizement. There's no discipline. So first of all, you have to cut down on cost of governance. You have fiscal discipline. And look at quantitative easing. Get money into the hands of the poor so that they can consume. And when there's consumption, there's production. It tries to impact on the end product in the economy. But if the people are poor, they cannot buy and they are not producing. Industries are running away. There's no manufacturing. All we have is just consumption. And we must rely on borrowing to narrow the budget deficits. And we have a Senate that is even encouraging consumption's ostentation. Tell me what a Nigerian will need a Prado Jeep of 2023 model for. In a country where the roads are so poor, in a country where the people are, 60% of Nigerians are poor. It's unspeakable. It's unspeakable. The journey first is just to cut the goods we consume as luxury items. Cost of governance is premium. How many vehicles does a governor need in his convoy? How many staff would a governor require as his personal staff? How would you say a Senate president requires 300 aides, 300 number of aides, and is still employing? How would you explain how our president is still increasing the number of ministers to 53 or 52?
All right, we can actually go on and on, but our time is fast spent here. I don't know, Nonso, whether you have one or two things to add before we wrap up the show.
Mine is, in addition to cutting the cost of government, we should also look at other ways of raising our revenue in the country. And we need to look at what are those options we have. First and foremost, we are not meeting our production target for crude oil. So what do we need to do to cut down on oil theft? We expected to be producing about 2 million barrels a day, but we are producing about 1.2 or thereabout. So we see that we have a shortfall, that monies that are supposed to be entering into our coffers for use in the national development is being stolen away, and we are going to borrow. So the other, the government is trying to do something with taxes, raising taxes. I think there was a tax committee of recent to look into how we can revive our tax administration so that we can raise more money from there. So that's a good attempt. We should begin to explore other means that we can use to raise revenue so that we can be relying less on these debt facilities.
All right, that's the much you can take on the program as Nigeria seeks fresh $1.5 billion loan facility from the World Bank. It's been great having two great minds in the studio, and just like they've rightly put it, let's borrow and channel it appropriately so that Nigeria shall be great again. Thank you so much, Chris Arukwe, for being here.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chukunonso Ekesiobi.
Pleasure.
All right, and that's it on Good Morning Anambra show for today. We thank you so much for being a part of it. Let's do this again tomorrow. For now, goodbye.
Wow.
Life is a collection of moments.
This was so much fun for me.
Moments so precious, they give us memories that last forever.
How can we forget? First graduating student of the year 2019.
We did it! And of course, your big day.
We believe in celebrating all of life's special moments.
I do.
Because we are your spark in every milestone. San Lauren.